The greatest battle a man has to fight is the battle within himself. Only when he comes to understand himself and his elements will he claim victory. With that as the mantra that he lives by, John Jeffries isn't like most people from Hillsborough, and he isn't even like most people born and raised in Hillsborough, although he was. He has roots that run much deeper in time than most people from the town because of his Okinichi heritage. I've seen that John's faith is an important foundation beyond his Okinichi identity, and specifically his biblical knowledge goes beyond what one might expect. Over time, he has come to fuse traditional Christian culture with traditions of his Okinichi forefathers. Along John's journey of understanding himself and his elements, he left the security of Hillsborough College and his family to join the Marines. As a young man, he was proud to have served his neighbors and country, despite the discrimination he experienced growing up. These days, the pace of his life has slowed down and provided more time for appreciating everyday life and the beauty of his surroundings. Living in the home he grew up in, John is intimately familiar with the landscape still a step outside his kitchen door. With such proximity to his past, John continues to tap into his childhood spirit and explorative nature, but with the wisdom he's gained over time, he has grown to value traditions of his Okinichi culture. At the same time, I know John hasn't had an easy life. These hands have been through the ugliness of segregation and poverty, but his wisdom and easygoing nature have underscored these times of struggle. After spending time on the porch, John steps into his shed where he is surrounded by walls riddled with beautiful notes, showing visitors meaningful time spent with him. Despite many visitors describing the shed as sacred, John built it to be a practical space for storage and work. The traditions of what he describes as primitive tool and weapon making are deeply embedded in Okinichi history. This history, he says, is transmitted through his hands, which have become vulnerable to numbness and arthritic pain. Despite this, he continues to produce tools and weapons that are also pieces of intricate art. Each object bears personal and historical meaning to the craftsman. In the mornings, he goes to downtown Hillsborough and sets up his work at Kelsey's, a restaurant and regular hangout. He receives attention from people passing on the street and encourages them to explore his displays while publicizing the upcoming powwow in June. When he isn't displaying his work down at Kelsey's, he is hanging out with his friends, commanding the same table day in and day out. Over time, nearby store owners and regular passerbys have come to expect his presence and appreciate his lighthearted nature. In addition to greeting friends and grabbing lunch, John enjoys people watching and is perpetually aware of the beauty and nature around him, sometimes stopping to sing with the birds above. If you see John, know that you can't take him too seriously. When he pulls you in for a seemingly serious moment or an important relay of information, that's when he'll get you and has you laughing before you realize what happened. His wife Lynette is often vulnerable to such laughter, a symptom of her love for John. They can be seen walking around town holding hands on their way to breakfast, as in love today as when they married in their 20s. What is even cuter, though, is their teamwork in the kitchen, where John cooks dinner to Lynette's specific liking and knows exactly what salad dressing and type of rice she prefers. In addition to preparing food, John frequently assembles herbs for smudging ceremonies. These ceremonies are rooted in Okinichi and other Native American practices involving prayer, smoking sage, cedar, and sweetgrass, and expressing gratitude. Although he is a Christian man, John doesn't go to church, but he smudges regularly. While smudging is an old Okinichi tradition, you can count on John to recount stories or morals from the Bible, or to reference specific passages throughout the day, as he is passing down a life lesson or moral. He keeps a rosary over his workbench and a necklace made of bear parts around his neck 100% of the time. John is a person knowledgeable about his family history and connected to traditions of his Okinichi forefathers. He is also a Christian with a clunky cell phone and a penchant for sweet tea, which he drinks cold or hot depending on his mood. The greatest battle a man has to fight is the battle within himself. Only when he comes to understand himself and his elements will he claim victory. John is a Hillsborough boy, born and raised, truly an American gem.